like to start all of my classes with a little bit of mindset and why you're here. Okay? And so I'd love to hear from each one of you if you have any goals for today or things that you're hoping you're going to get out of this. Oh my gosh, hold on. I didn't even introduce myself. Maybe all three of you know me, but let me back up and do that part. Sorry about that. So I'm Laura Gleason, and I am a team leader with Keller Williams Santa Clara Valley office. And I've been in real estate for 21 years now. Prior to my real estate career, I have a master's degree in higher education administration. And so I used to work at the college level. And then as I was raising my family, I got into a real estate career here in the Bay Area. Let me let Della in. And have thoroughly enjoyed this career. I've spent many years selling real estate. I'm still actively selling in the Santa Cruz area, which, Jody, that's why my primary association is Santa Cruz. And I've been in leadership positions with Keller Williams for uh, almost 8 years now, and have been a team leader in the Santa Clara, Silicon Valley area for 4.5 years now. So I have a passion for learning. It's near and dear to my heart. My master's is in higher education administration. I used to teach at the college level. I used to develop curriculum. And so I love to be able to work with the association and provide some classes throughout the year. So thank you guys all for being with me today. We're doing business planning for 2022. That's what our topic is for today. So now that I've introduced myself, let me back up and ask you if you have any questions for today or things that you're hoping to get, and tell me a little bit why you're here today. Who would like to start? Rebecca.
Yes, I'll start. Well, I'm here today because I want to be here today because I decided actually during in the middle of COVID, I didn't want to go back to a regular 9-to-5 job where I felt I would be at risk. So I thought I want something safer and I want a good retirement. So I picked this as a retirement job for me.
Okay.
This is a perfect retirement job. And I started pursuing it in July, and here I am. I started July mid-COVID, and I passed my exam July 1st this year.
So you're new in the business then?
I am very new. I do my first house tonight.
I'm sorry, say that last part again?
I'm doing my first open house tonight with my mentor.
Okay, awesome. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great. And I'm glad that you're here. You're getting some good information right out of the gate, so that's good. Milena, how about you?
Just wanted to take the time today to really organize my schedule. I guess time management is very important to me because working from home, I get, I don't know about you, but distracted doing other things around the house. So I got out of the house, came into the office, and I said, no, I'm just focusing on this and get as much as I can with it and implement it, not just make notes and stuff and put it away, but I want to.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. And we're going to definitely talk about implementation too. So that's great. And Amanda, how about you?
Yeah, kind of similar situation just because been mostly at home this whole COVID. And so just sometimes need to get a little motivation going and just refill the tank, I think. So that was kind of what I wanted to do.
Okay. Hey, Della. Are you with us for reals?
I am.
Hi.
How are you guys? Hi, Milena. Amanda. It's good to see you. I wasn't expecting to be on, but you guys are in a good place with Laura. She's amazing. She's very knowledgeable. I've sat in her office with many, many meetings, and she brings a lot of valuable information. I'm here basically to be a support to all the realtors, if for materials, and to just really just support Laura today. So
thanks, sweetie. And Della, Rebecca's a new agent, so you definitely want to reach out to her. Okay?
Absolutely.
She's a great first American title rep.
Thank you, Laura.
Nice.
You're welcome. Well, I know I've spoken to a Milena before, and Amanda and I have known each other for a couple of years, so this is going to be a really fun class. Jody, I know you're going to pop in and out because you've got another meeting. Is there anything that you want to add in terms of goals for today and that sort of thing?
No, I just want to thank you guys for being here. We are recording this session, so we'll make sure that you guys get it afterwards in case there's little nuggets that you missed or want to go back and listen to again.
Cool.
And Laura, I think I'm going to shamelessly plug also our two other classes that may fall in line with this later this year, the vision boards and the wheel of life. So as you think about your business plan, there's two classes we're doing in November. One is on the wheel of life, kind of figuring out where you're balanced in life and maybe where you're not balanced in life in so many different areas, and then putting together a vision board to help you kind of put all that together and using your business plan to really manifest what's going on next year. And I had this thought as I was sitting here. I'm going to put together some kind of a little bit of a special promo for you guys because you took the initiative to be here.
Cool.
So we'll give you guys a discount if you choose to sign up for those classes. So I'll come up with that, and when we send you the recording and all the stuff, we'll send you a discount code.
Okay. And then thanks, Jody. Are you in for a couple more minutes? So, because I'm about to share my screen and then I can't see if people are trying to get in.
If you want to make me a co-host.
Oh, I do.
When I made you a host, I lose everything.
Yes, ma'am. There. Okay. Now we're in this together.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a presentation for you guys today. Let me get this on slideshow mode. Oh, here we go. All right. You guys should be able to see everything. So what it takes to be successful in real estate. Prep for 2022 business planning. Before we get started, I just want a couple of things. We already kind of talked about why you're here today. So I really do want you to have that in the background in your mind of what your goals are and why you're here today. I always like for you to be thinking about that monetary goal because frankly, real estate is not a charity. We're in it to make money. And, we're in it for different reasons. I love what Rebecca said that it sounds like this is a later in life career for you. And it's definitely something that you can take into retirement and continue to do for a long time. And the goal would be to make some money. Like I said, it's not a charity. The thing about real estate is we don't get paid until the end of a successful transaction, and we put a lot of effort into it before we do get paid. But the goal is to get paid, and there's no ceiling on how much money you can make. So part of why you're here today would be to think about
At home.
monetarily, what do you want to make? What are your income goals? And then attached to the income goal, there also needs to be a big why, a big reason. What is that reason that you're here? What is that reason that you're in this career that can be really hard at times, be really tough? It's certainly not as easy as some people on the outside think it is. There's a lot of work involved. We have one of those careers where you don't clock in and clock out every day. So there's a ton of self-motivation that goes along with this career so that you stay on track to hit your goals and you stay on track with that time management that can be so difficult. So I want you to be thinking about why besides the money am I doing this? What is this doing for me that that allows me the means for a bigger why in life? Is it a legacy? Is there some reason? Is it a legacy? Is it a charity? Is it small children at home that you are trying to be a role model for? Is it someone else in your life you're being a role model for? What is that bigger why that's connected to the monetary part of it? And not that you have to share it, but just think about that. I think we just added Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly. And I'm just writing her name down as well. Okay. And then the other thing I want you to think about is moving from what we call E to P. This is really important when you start thinking about business planning, okay? And that is moving from entrepreneurial to purposeful. When I say that, when I say moving from E to P, moving from entrepreneurial to purposeful, what does that mean to you? Do you guys have any idea what I'm talking about when I bring that up? What does it mean to move from being entrepreneurial to purposeful?
To going from, I'm assuming, my guess is you're going to a purpose in life. You're going from a passion of what you want to do, and then you're in a purpose. That
Yeah,
makes sense?
that it does. It totally makes sense. It also means, now it's one of those things that can be very confusing in real estate because you're all entrepreneurs at heart, right? You
Right.
like being a business owner for yourself and that sort of thing. And Rebecca, thank you for participating. Because you went from camera off to totally being involved, so I appreciate it. Entrepreneurial to purposeful
Well, I'll
also.
be talking.
Okay, great. Entrepreneurial to purposeful also means that you have purpose behind what you're doing. You're not just coming up with some kind of cool plan this week and then next week it's a different cool plan, and something creative this week and then next week something creative and that sort of thing. That there's purpose behind what you're doing, okay? And so when you think about being from going from E to P or entrepreneurial to purposeful, we also want to think about um, having breakthroughs in what you're doing. So every time you work on something and work on a new goal and feel like you've achieved that goal, where are you then going to hit another level? That's one of the cool things about real estate is there's no ceiling, and so there's always an opportunity for you to continue to grow and continue to push yourself and grow to higher levels. So this is just showing you people who are going from entrepreneurial to purposeful don't just try one thing and say, oh, it didn't work and I'm done. They keep pushing themselves to have different breakthroughs and continue to grow and move past ceilings of achievement. Okay? All right. The other thing I'd like you to keep in mind is, are you an A student? When you think about taking this class or any other class, are you showing up as an A student? Are you paying attention? Are you taking notes? Are you participating? Are you asking questions? Or are you showing up as a C student? And keeping in mind that in life, average usually gets fired. Okay? And C is average. So how are you showing up in this class, and how are you showing up in any of the other classes that that you might be taking in order to make this the most successful career that you can have? So I'm hoping that you'll consider showing up as an A student today. As I mentioned at the beginning, for those of you that have been here since the beginning, I'm not 100% feeling well today, so the more we all participate, the better this will go, and I'm doing my best to keep my energy level up for you guys. So please do your best to show up along with me here, okay? So just again, thinking about why you're here today and how big is your why? What does that look like for you? And that's just setting our mindset. Now we're going to move on to the content for today, and that is creating our 2022 business plan. And believe it or not, there's actually science behind this, okay? There's science behind a successful real estate career and what makes an outstanding business plan. Now, the one thing I want you guys to keep in mind, and I'll say it again because I know we've had a few people jump in a little later. I will have handouts for you. You're going to need to email me, or I'll get your emails from Jody. If I don't have your emails already, I'll email you the handouts afterwards, okay? So, tip for you guys, people aim for nothing and hit it with amazing accuracy. Just think about that statement for a second. People aim for nothing and still hit it with amazing accuracy. You can aim for nothing or you can aim for something, and either way you're still going to hit what you're aiming for. So isn't it better in life to be aiming for something versus aiming for nothing? Okay? You're still going to hit it no matter what. And so part of what we're going to be talking about today is really establishing some targets that you're going to be aiming for in your business for 2022. What are those targets going to be? And we're going to be focusing mostly on 2 models today. These models come from a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and there's 4 models that are discussed in that book. The 2 models we're going to focus on mostly are the economic model, which are your numbers. That's one of the targets we're going to talk about you hitting, are your numbers. Oh, thank you, Jody. That's what the book looks like. And the other model we're going to be working on today is your lead generation model. That's your activities that you use in order to hit your numbers in your economic model. And then I'm very briefly going to spend some time on the budget model and even more briefly talk about the organizational model. For the most part, to get you guys going for next year, where every single agent needs to start is with the economic model and the lead generation model. Okay, so with that said, does anybody have any questions so far? All right,
Are we
next
getting,
up.
Laura, are we getting copies of this slides that
You're not
showing?
getting the whole slide presentation, but you're going to get a whole handout that goes right along with the slide presentation. And there's some worksheets that I'm going to be sending you where you're going to be able to do some math and set some goals and that sort of thing. Okay? It's
Okay,
a
thank you.
pretty extensive handouts that I'm sending you.
Sure,
So let's
thank you.
start with this. Take out a piece of paper and we're going to do a quiz. How well do you know your numbers? So here as the first question. Number 1, how much money do you want to make in 2022? Gross commission income, what do you want to make? And that's either gross commission income or net. If you've figured it out that far, net is an even better number to be planning for, net income. How much money did you want to make in 2022? Has everybody written something down? Amanda, you're the only one I can see. Nod your head for me if you've written. Okay, great. All right. How many people are in your database or data bank? Think of it as a data bank. How many people are in your data bank? And how many are in your pipeline? Okay. Before I go any further, does somebody want to tell me what the difference between a database and a pipeline is?
I can.
Thank you.
The database is just like everyone who you happen to have phone numbers and contact information for. Pipelines like actual business.
Right. Thank you. So pipeline are those buyers or sellers that you've identified that are getting ready to buy or sell real estate, whether it's immediately right now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, 2 years from now, you may have identified a group of buyers and sellers that are in your pipeline. Amanda, I'm going to play with you a little bit more. Is every single person in your database also in your pipeline?
Not necessarily, but
Right.
it could be
Correct.
eventually.
Hopefully. But is every single person in your pipeline also in your database?
They better be.
Yes. Thank you. You were an A student today. Yes.
Hey.
So every single person in your pipeline should also be in your database, but not every single person in your database is going to be in your pipeline. You may have somebody that just bought a house last month. And so they're in your database and you're going to stay in touch with them for the rest of your life because real estate is a lifelong relationship. But they may not show up in your pipeline right away because maybe they won't be buying or selling anything in the next couple of years. So they may not quite be in your pipeline again, unless they're thinking about buying a second property or an investment property or something like that, and you're already in conversation with them. So your database is everybody in your world plus everybody else. That's people you're getting to know. So it's the people you already know. And again, it's their names, their phone numbers, their email addresses, their mailing addresses, maybe even your social media connections, all those kinds of things. And then you're going to be adding people that you're meeting through your lead generation sources like open houses, door knocking, etc., etc. So, do you know how many people are currently in your database? Do you know that number? And do you know how many people are currently in your pipeline? That's the second question on the quiz. Third question. What did you produce this year? in 2021? I know it's not quite over. Are you on track to hit your goals for this year? What was that volume goal? What was the units goal? What was your gross commission income goal? And even further, did you have a net income goal? And are you on track to hit those numbers this year? If you already know all of that and you're on track, then you're in really good shape to start planning for next year as well. Fourth question. How many contacts did you make this year? How many people did you actually contact and talk to this year? Do you know that number? What are your conversion rates? How many contacts did it take for you to get to an appointment with a buyer or a seller? And how many appointments did you go on that turned into an actual buyer or seller contract? And of those contracts, how many of those led to an actual closing of an escrow where you were paid a commission check? Those are conversion rates, and it's very important for us to know our rates in real estate so that we can continue to improve our skills. So do you know your conversion rates? And 6, what percent of your business is sellers and buyers? If you're thinking about what your units goal was for this year, how many of those units were seller based and how many of those units were buyer based? And did you have a goal for how many that would be? And what are your costs of sales for this year? Who knows what the definition of cost of sales is?
Marketing.
The next question is, what are your expenses for this year? So I'm going to add these two together. Do you guys know what the difference between the two are? Do you know what the difference between your cost of sales and your expenses are? Okay, this one can be tricky. A lot of times people have not thought about it this way. So I'm going to start with expenses. And here my voice is already starting to go. Hold on. Excuse me.
So the expenses for the business, would that be things that there's tax deduction, like advertising, all of
Yeah,
that stuff for the office? Will that be
they're
the expenses for the year?
both your expenses and your cost of sales are both deductions. Expenses happen no matter if you sell something or not. So for
Oh,
example, you have to join your association of realtors, right? Whether you sell something or not, you still have that as an expense. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Oh,
Costs of sales are
so our
expenses that you incur when you sell something. Okay? So your cost of sale might be the payment to the transaction coordinator. If you paid for some staging, that may be a cost of sale. So they're costs that you incur from a sale. And they're definitely still deductible. You get the
yeah.
difference though? An expense is something we hit. So remember this, in real estate, you're a business owner. You are a small business owner in real estate, okay? And with any business that you own, you're going to incur some expenses, okay? Hold on, I'm putting a cough drop in my mouth, so hang on a second. Let me get another drink. All right, I'm going to get through this. So with any business, you have expenses that you incur, okay? Real estate is no different. You are a small business owner as a real estate agent. Unfortunately, most of you aren't told that when you start in a real estate career, that you're actually a small business owner. And you're not really taught how to run your business like a business owner would in any other profession. So fortunately, you're in a class like this today where you can really start thinking about that. Expenses are everything in your business that you incur, whether you sell something or not. So yes, Melena, marketing is also part of that. Marketing are part of your expenses. Cost of sales expenses are those expenses that you incur when you actually sell something. Okay, that's the difference between the two. And when you're doing your taxes, your CPA usually wants to know the difference. So this was your quiz. This is your part of your economic plan is knowing your numbers. So again, how much money do you want to make next year? How many people are in your database and how many are in your pipeline? What did you produce this year in 2021? What was your volume? What was your units? And what was your gross commission income? And possibly your net if you've really been working as a business owner, you know your net as well. How many contacts did you make? What were your conversion rates? And we're talking conversion rates, contacts to appointments, appointments to contracts, and contracts to closings. What percent of your business is sellers and buyers? What are your costs of sales for this year? And what are your expenses for this year? So this is one of the handouts you're going to be getting from me so that you can spend some time after we meet today to look at these questions to start planning for next year. Okay? All right, now I want to show you another really cool little, this is a funnel. It's called a lead generation model. And it's for you to start thinking about your conversion rates. So if you take a look at this, I'm going to start up here at the top. The first part is called your lead generation. The second phase is your database, and the third phase is your pipeline. Because as we already defined, not everybody in your database will actually be in your pipeline. It all starts with lead generation. That's the prospecting and marketing that you do in order to capture leads that hopefully then become contacts and turn into a relationship that you're cultivating. So it starts with prospecting and marketing. Okay? Prospecting and marketing have two different definitions. Prospecting is usually time-based. Marketing is usually money-based. So prospecting takes more of your time. Marketing takes more of your money. Both of them have the result of getting you in front of people. So for example, prospecting could be door knocking, open houses, those kinds of things that take your time but are less expensive.
Making calls.
Making calls, all of that. Marketing is the flyers that you send out, the postcards, putting your face on a billboard, radio spots, all of those things that you add if you have the money to add to them, okay? The goal is to capture leads, and then there's leads that you may be tracking and checking in with, that as you build a relationship, they turn into contacts. Leads are more of what you'd call a one-way relationship. You may have met someone at an open house, they gave you some contact information, you're staying in touch with them, but they haven't really, let's say, taken the bait. They're not really contacting you back. But at some point, if they're really serious and you've followed up with them well, they turn into what you call a contact, and that's someone that you have a two-way relationship with that you're communicating back and forth with. You've actually connected with them. You're cultivating that relationship with the goal that turns into a buyer or seller appointment and becomes an active contract with a buyer or seller that turns into an escrow, which turns into a closing. Do you guys get how that whole thing works? So when you think about this, when you think about conversion rates, what do you need? How many numbers do you need to convert to get to this closing when you start from way up here? And we're going to spend some time with that math at the end. I did a little math for you that hopefully will help. So those are things to think about. Oops, my thing isn't moving. Okay. All right. So you want to ask yourself, how many units do you need to close to hit your goal? How many units do you need to close to hit your goal? What percentage of those units will be buyer-based and what percentage of those units will be seller-based? How many contracts do you need to sign to hit your goal? So we're starting here. How many units do you need to hit your goal? How many contracts do you need to sign to hit your goal? How many appointments do you need to go on to hit your goal? And how many leads do you need to generate to hit your goal? Do you get how you work backwards on that? Because unless we're converting every single lead at 100%, then you need more leads way up here to get all the way down here. Okay? And that's it. And I'm going to say, I think very few real estate agents know their conversion rates. So it's something for you to really track. We have to track it in order to know our rates. Hey, if you don't know them yet, that's okay. No time like the present. It's something you can start working on now. You track how many appointments you've gone on, and of those appointments, how many of them turned into contracts, and how many of those contracts turned into closings. And then even before that, How much lead generation did you do? How many hours are you doing? How many people are you in front of? How many people are you adding to your database? Those are things to think about when you're thinking about those economic numbers that are going to make you a smart business owner. Okay, that was a bit on the economics, which is the first part of our model. And again, you're getting all of those questions that I asked you right here, you're going to get in a handout from me at the end. These are questions to ask yourself so that you know your economic plan. I'm going to go on to the lead generation plan next. Does anybody have any questions or comments or thoughts about the economic plan before I move on?
No.
Nobody? You guys sure? It's okay. If you have a thought or a question, it's probably one that somebody else does as well. Let me ask. Yes.
I have a question. I don't know if it's kind of related. Well, it's kind of related to contract, getting a contract. How do you go about to making the person sign you on? Like, how do you get that contract with that person?
Who wants to answer that question for Rebecca? Rebecca, my answer would be this is a relationship business and it's about you building relationships and these are skills that you're going to be learning and building as because you have a mentor and you're a newer agent and they're going to be showing you how they go about this and you're going to be creating buyer presentations and seller presentations and you're going to be getting in front of people and working on all of those relationship building skills that will build you confidence to show what your value is and why they should be hiring you.
Okay. Can I just go out and ask them?
I mean, it's absolutely part of it. With every closing you do, I always call it closings along the way. There's not just one closing at the end. You're closing for moving. Here, let me go back to this pipeline. The first part is you're prospecting and marketing to get to know people. And you're asking for their info there. So that's one closing. And as you're getting to know them, you're asking for an appointment, which is another closing. Excuse me. And then you're actively getting into contracts. So you're asking all along the way. That's definitely a part of this business.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else want to add anything to my answer was?
I think, yeah, just like when I was first starting, I just went to like every class I possibly could go to learn all this stuff. Because it also depends on whether you mean in terms of just what to say to the person or the actual like contract knowledge itself too. Those are two different skills as well. So learning the contracts, going to some contract classes, so you learn both the offer contract as well as the listing agreement contract. That's important too to be able to go over that with your client. But yeah, in terms of just asking for the business, like even from day one, doing an open house, just ask, like just put yourself out there repeatedly and it'll start happening naturally. And I think people have different like styles of how they are with other people. And so, you'll attract people that are kind of in your wheelhouse in terms of like your personality and their personality and stuff like that. So it's because it's very much a people business. So it can really vary.
Cool. Thank you for that answer, Amanda. Does anybody else want to add? You're going to be skill building all along the way. And the more you build your skills, the more confidence you're going to build as well.
I remember when I back in the day when I started going on appointments, I asked my manager or someone that had a lot of years of experience to come with me to that appointment. And you learn a lot more than going on yourself the first couple of times.
I had my first, I guess you could say my first week, but he's not exclusive to us, to me, to KW. He's not exclusive with us. So I'm kind of worried we're going to lose him to another agent. And I don't want that. So I guess I just got to go put myself out there and do it.
Well, that's a really good part of this whole the whole conversation that we're having as well. Oh man, I hope my voice is gonna. Hold on. Excuse me. Sorry, you guys. I knew this was gonna happen. Don't put all your eggs in one basket either. You got to get more of those people. So if there's always going to be somebody that decides to go somewhere else, and the more leads you have, the more chances that you're going to hit your goals. But if you're only focusing on one person, you got too many eggs in one basket.
Okay.
That buyers and sellers can smell desperation as well. And a lot of the times we use the language. We learn to use closing language. We learn to, use that language they teach us in bold, right? Try and engage them with your conversation, get them to elaborate and get that relationship started. And
Hey,
then,
who's speaking right now? Because all it says is Keller Williams on your.
Yes.
oh, that's funny. This is Cindy. I have to find it. Let me
I
find it.
recognize your voice.
I know. But so basically there's, I've found that even when I'm texting or communicating initially with a client, I'm excited to be working with you instead of, do you want to work with me? It's that assuming the close.
Yeah.
It's changing
Assuming,
the
yep.
language to help them kind of wrap their head around, we're connected, this is what's happening, kind of thing. So that's just my thing. I'm going to try and fix my name now.
I'm helping you. There we go. Thank you. Okay. All right. Rebecca, was that helpful for you?
Yes, it was. Cindy
Awesome.
helped me out a lot.
Great. Okay. All right. Everybody say a prayer that Laura's voice holds out. I'm going to keep going. So we just focused on the economic model. Started with the economic model. And again, remember the economic model is the economics of this. What are your numbers? And these are different questions for you to ask yourself so that you can set some goals. And then we're moving into what the lead gen model and conversion rates look like. And you're asking yourself some conversion questions. If you don't know the answers to these questions, then I highly recommend that you start keeping track all along the way, all the way from leads to appointments to contracts to closings. Okay? All right. And now we're going to move a little bit further on this, and we're going to talk a little bit more about your lead generation plan, which is also knowing your numbers. Okay. So a couple more questions for you. What is your method or methods of prospecting? What are your methods? If anybody has seen me teach my lead generation class, you know that I always recommend that you focus on 3 types of lead generation. You focus on 3, okay? We can brainstorm right now 10 different types of lead generation. We could brainstorm it. You guys help me out. Cold calling, FISBOs, expireds, door knocking, open houses, social media. I just came up with 7 right there. I know I've missed a few. We could easily come up with 10 different networking events. There's 8 right there. We could come up with more. The goal, though, is to focus on 3, maybe 3 to 4, and get really good at those so that you're doing what I call a deep dive instead of just swimming the surface and being more of what you'd call a jack of all trades and a master of none. So if you focus on 3 to 4, one of those is always going to be your sphere of influence, because we already know it's tried and true. There's been many studies done on this that most people get their business, the majority of their business comes from their sphere of influence, from those people they have the longest or best relationships with. Those are the people that you already know, okay? The people you've already met. And then you're going to add some lead generation sources to that to get to meet more people, whether that's open houses, farming, door knocking. Lots of social media types of advertising that we're doing. There's lots of different ways that you can add new people that you can meet. So the goal is to pick 3 to 4 types of prospecting and build your skills around those and get really good at them. Okay, so question number 1 was, what is your method or methods of prospecting? Typically, when I meet with my agents and we talk about this, the number 1 for them is always their sphere of influence. That's who they're reaching out to mostly. Sphere of influence, it's more of lead follow-up than lead generation. With your sphere of influence, you already know them, so you're not meeting them for the first time. You're following up with them. And then your lead generation are your other sources. Again, it can be open houses. It could be social media advertising that you're doing, door knocking, FISBOs and expireds, cold calling, networking events, whatever those 3 things are that you want to focus on to help you build more relationships and add more people to your database. How often are you doing it? Be honest with yourself. How often are you really doing it? Are you focusing 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week on lead generation? Ask yourself, how often are you doing it? Are you doing it often enough to hit your goals? You guys all have a different goal, so I can't tell you there's a magic number for that. And what is your marketing plan and your follow-up plan? Remember, there's a difference between prospecting and marketing. Again, prospecting is more of putting yourself out there to meet people. That's more of your time. And marketing is more of your follow-up, or more a way to reach the masses, like it might be a mailing campaign that you send out to 500 people in a farm. And prospecting might be an open house that you do in that farm. So what's your marketing plan? What's your follow-up plan? Once you've met someone, how often are you following up with them? Do you follow up? Do you call them quarterly? Do you send them an email a couple of times a month with really helpful marketing information? Are you sending handwritten notes to get to know people? Are you doing pop-bys to the people that you know? Are you having some client events? What are your different ways that you're following up with people? Are you using video? Are you doing some videos? People are more apt to read what you're sending them if you're adding video to what you're doing. So what does that follow-up plan look like for you? Is it systematic? Is it professional? Systematic meaning it happens at the same time every single month. Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Are there different parts to it? So think about those things when you're creating that plan. Okay, how many Mets are in your database? The Mets are the people that you already know. That's your sphere of influence. We asked you that question. So how many are there in there? And how many have not Mets are you adding to your database monthly in order to hit your goal? And how many leads are you converting to appointments and then contracts and then closings? These are the questions you want to ask yourself as a business owner so that you can be the smartest business owner that you can be. Any thoughts around this? Any questions? Have you guys thought about this before? Does this make sense? I know I have quite a few KW people with me before, so I know this isn't the first time that you've heard this.
Yeah, it makes sense. The farming thing I've really been into, and yeah, you have to do it every month though, otherwise it doesn't work. And I've had people ask like, oh, how did you get that listing or whatever? And it's like, because I've been mailing there like every month for 3 years, you know? So yeah.
Amanda,
the how often are you really doing it is
right. Amanda, I'm glad you used the word farming. I really want you guys to think about farming for a second. Okay, I grew up on a dairy farm, so this is near and dear to my heart. They call it farming for a reason. So let's just look at it this way. I'm going to do a scenario with you. And Amanda, I might ask you to play along with me.
okay.
So Amanda, let's say you have a garden in your backyard, okay? And it's May and you're getting the garden ready for the summer. And you're tilling the soil, you're getting the soil all ready, and creating your rows so you can plant your seeds with your different vegetables that you're going to put in there, right? So you spend a bunch of time getting your little plot of land in your backyard ready for your little garden in your backyard. And like I said, you till the soil, you get that soil turned up and ready, then you plant your seeds, then you sprinkle some water on there, a lot of water in California, and you add fertilizer to it, and then you're checking on it every week, you're pulling some weeds, right? And you're starting to see it sprout, you're starting to see some things happen, and then you decide, now it's like July, and you decide you're going to go on a vacation for a month. And you leave, and what happens to that garden then?
Well, if you didn't have somebody water it for you, that's not going to work in July.
Yeah. It's going to die. So when you guys think about this whole idea of farming, it doesn't end. You don't try. I had one agent that I was working with a few years back that was like, yeah, I farmed this neighborhood last month, and this month I'm going to farm this neighborhood. And I was like, no, 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 no. You're not really getting the whole idea of farming. Farming is, and when we're talking about geographic farming, there's different types of farming, but the whole idea of farming is that you are fertilizing and paying attention to and adding sun and all the different things you're doing to one bit of soil so that you can see the fruits of your labor, right? And if you pause, so I had an agent I met with a couple weeks ago. He's decided he's going to really focus on open houses. He goes, okay, I think I'm going to pause my farm for a while then. And so I did that whole analogy of him going on a vacation with the garden in his backyard. I said, if you pause your farm, it's going to die. And like Amanda just talked about, farming those seeds don't sprout into fruits and vegetables overnight. It takes a while, and it's you watering and fertilizing and adding sun are the things that you keep doing as follow-up. They're the follow-up postcards that you do, the follow-up door knocking that you do, the follow-up phone calls that you make. That's the fertilizer, that's the sun, that's the water that you're putting on those seeds so that they will continue to grow. And we know we plant seeds that not every single seed is going to grow into a fruit or a vegetable. We're going to pull some weeds. Those are going to be people that move out of the neighborhood, or they're a jerk and you don't want to work with them, so you pull that weed out. And we know that not every seed you plant is going to turn into a fruit or vegetable. Over time, though, will you get more of a yield? Yes. If you continue to water and fertilize and add sunshine, you'll get more of a yield. And so Amanda, you said like 3 years you've been farming a certain geographic area, and it's coming to fruition now, right? You're getting fruit.
Yeah, I mean, I've been farming the same area since like the day I got my license, and I have had 6 or 7 listings in there.
Yeah.
In 5 years. So.
And what are you doing to farm there?
I do postcards once a month, and in the past, but not recently, but in the past, I have done door knocking and like handouts and other stuff too.
Yeah. If anybody's interested, we have a man named Ricky O'Neill who's going to be doing a farming class in our office next week that I'm happy to get you a Zoom link to. I've never seen anybody do farming better than this team. They're out of Folsom, actually. And he's amazing at teaching this class. So if, again, you guys can email me at the end and I'll get you a Zoom link to that. It's this time next Thursday. If you guys have never seen him speak, he's one of my favorite teachers or trainers. And he will be teaching a farming class next week if you want to get more on that topic. So thank you, Amanda, for sharing. Okay, so these are the questions that you want to ask yourself when you're talking about your lead generation plan. What are your methods? We just talked about, I came up with 8 or 9. How often are you doing it? What does your marketing plan and your follow-up plan look like? Weekly, monthly, and quarterly. How many METs are in your database? How many people are you adding to your database monthly that you haven't met yet? And what are your conversion rates again? How many leads are you converting to appointments? And then are you converting to contracts and then to closings? Okay? a little bit of time to talk about the transaction life cycle. So forget that this says listings, it could be buyers. So this is transaction life cycle either for a listing or buyer. First, you want to think about what your lead generation sources are for listings or buyers. Okay? Again, is it open houses? Is it farming? Is it door knocking, which can be a part of farming? Is it social media lead generation? Is it cold calling? Is it FISBOs? Is it expireds? All those different sources can be sources for you to get listings. Oh, I didn't even say sphere of influence. Of course, number one is sphere of influence. Now, when you think about the life cycle of a transaction, we would all agree it starts with lead generation, kind of like our funnel that we saw earlier. Okay? And it goes all the way to the end here to a successful closing. So you've got your transaction management would be an escrow, right? It would be managing the transaction while you're in escrow, and then at the end, you have a happy, successful closing. So lead generation, in my opinion, is a one-time event. When you generate a lead, you're meeting somebody for the first time. Once you've met them, you're doing follow-up and conversion here. So the biggest part of this life cycle of a transaction is what you're doing to follow up and convert into an actual client. What happens once you have a lead? So you have all these sources for lead sources for listings or buyers. And then what happens? That's your follow-up. That's this part right here. Some of them might be a lead that automatically turns into a client. But we know in real estate that it's a lifetime relationship building event or type of work. And so what happens once you've generated a lead? What type of follow-up plans do you put that lead on? I think I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I want to show you guys something else that I think is really helpful for you to think about. So let me get my whiteboard going. Okay, another way to look at this cycle is to look at it like this. Okay? And this is more of what we call the law of emotional proximity. There. Ha! There's my writing. Okay, so right up here is a successful closing. We have a client, this is a buyer or seller that we met down here, and we worked with them on a transaction, we worked on it, and up here we had a successful closing. And then all of a sudden the next day, we're back down here again. All right? We've closed a contract and we're all the way back down here again. Now, before I go any further in this, I want you to think about the law of emotional proximity in this way. Let's say you go to Nordstrom's and you walk in the door and there's a greeter. And the greeter says, "Hey, welcome to Nordstrom. Is there anything I can help you with today?" And you go, "No, thanks. I'm just looking. I'm fine." Right? That's pretty much what we all say. And you walk into Nordstrom's, you're in the middle of the store, and all of a sudden you're looking for a certain size of pants and you need some help. Do you go all the way back to the front of that store to get help from the person who offered to help you at the very front of the store? Or do you look for the person that you're closest to help you?
The one that is
But
closest.
thank you,
Probably.
Melinda. The one that's closest. That's the law of emotional proximity. We all look for the person who is closest to us when we need help. So let's think about the holidays that are coming up right now. We got Halloween this weekend. We got Thanksgiving coming up. We have a lot of religious holidays coming up this time of year. What happens when we have holidays? What happens with families when the holidays come around?
People focus more in holidays and family.
Yeah, they tend to have dinner together. They tend to have family gatherings, get together more. And during those family gatherings, does real estate come up? Yes, real
Not
estate
too
comes up.
much.
People start talking about who's thinking about, like, so Johnny and Susie are getting ready to get married and buy a house. They're going to buy their first home. Or Grandma and Grandpa are getting ready to retire and move out of the area. During those family conversations, they start to talk about real estate. Now, if you have sent them some follow-up during the holidays and your face and your name is right in front of them, are they more apt to think about you because of the law of emotional proximity, you just sent them something during the holidays? They're more likely to be thinking about you when they're thinking about real estate needs. But if it's been 6 months since you sent them something, are they going to be thinking about you so much? So here's what happens here. These are just dashes, okay? With the law of emotional proximity, these dashes are your follow-up. Now, what happens with a lot of real estate agents is they just want to start right here. They want to go to it. They want to do an open house, and they want to meet somebody who, in the next 2 months, is ready to buy a house. Okay, but that's supposed to be a dollar sign, you guys. That looks terrible. But what you realize is that, for the most part, if you've been following up with people all along the way, they're more likely to want to work with you than the person that they met right here. Okay? However, if you haven't been following up with them, then they're going to go with that person that they just met right here because that's who's in front of them. So law of emotional proximity says they're going to work with that person. So I just like to show this part of it because this is really important when you're thinking about follow-up, is to think about how good are your follow-up plans. Are you following up with people throughout the year in a professional, systematic way so that every time they're thinking about real estate, your name is the one that comes to mind for them in terms of this emotional proximity law? Does that make sense, everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So when you go back to, oh, here it is. I hope I'm turning this to the right one. Oh boy. Okay, so when you go back to this and you think about this life cycle of a transaction, it starts with one event. It starts with lead generation. It ends with transaction management and escrow. But it's that law of emotional proximity is what you'd see show up here in terms of the follow-up. So what happens once you have a lead? What does your follow-up plans look like? And what are your sources for lead generation? Okay. Now, let's talk about, so I think it was Milena talked about time management and organization and wanting to be organized for next year. Let's talk about some planning tools for success. How am I doing on time here? How are we doing? 2 o'clock. Okay, great. All right, here's some planning tools for you. We have a couple tools. These are in the packet that I'm going to email to you. Remember that I need you guys to email me so I can email you the packet. In fact, hold on a second. I will take this time right now to put my email address into the chat again. There's my email address, and I will email this packet to you. Okay, so here's some planning tools for you to think about. We have a few different planning tools that I like to use that are part of my world at Keller Williams, but they're certainly a planning tool that anyone can use. The first one would be starting with what we call a GPS. Does anybody know what a GPS stands for?
A guided positioning system.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's what it stands for in terms of the real world. For Keller Williams, it stands for, the G stands for your goal. What's your big goal for the year? The P stands for your priorities or your plans. What are your priorities or plans that you're going to use to reach that goal? And the S stands for what are your strategies or steps that you're going to use to reach your priorities, which you're in turn going to use to reach your goal. So it always starts with a big goal. So I asked you some questions at the beginning in terms of what is your monetary goal for next year for 2022? How many units do you want to close? How many buyers do you want to work with? How many sellers do you want to work with? So you're going to ask yourself a big goal question. And then you're going to come up with some plans or priorities in order to hit that goal, and then some steps or strategies underneath each one. And I do have this planning tool. I'm going to show it to you here in just a second, and it's one of the emails I'll send to you. And then in addition to that, we have another planning tool, which in my opinion, we call it the 411, really becomes your job description in real estate. That to me is one of the parts of real estate that's really ambiguous, is we don't really have a daily job description. We kind of have to create it on our own. And you can do it. You can create that time management and organization that Milena was talking about at the beginning in order to create a daily job description. So the 411 planning tool for us is what you will do weekly and monthly to reach this big goal that you set here. It really just means one annual goal. It's backwards. It's one annual goal, which turns into a monthly goal. So 12 months of the year. So you would divide your annual goal by 12 and come up with a monthly goal. And then there's 4 weeks in every month. So what are you going to do in the 4 weeks in order to hit your monthly goal, which puts you in line to hit your annual goal? When you start putting some planning into the 4 weeks, to me, that becomes your daily job description. Does that make sense, everybody? So here's what these tools look like. And again, this is part of the handouts you're going to get. So your GPS is, what is my one goal for the year? And this comes from the website, theonething.com. You'll see it at the very bottom. There's a really great book out there called The One Thing, and they have a bunch of planning resources that you can get from theonething.com, and that's where this comes from. So you're going to set up one goal for the year. And then in order to hit that goal, you're going to set some priorities. And in order to hit each priority, you're going to come up with some strategies. It doesn't have to be 3 priorities. It could be 2. It could be 4. It doesn't have to be 5 strategies. It could be 2, 3, 4 strategies. They're just using this as a guidepost for examples. It typically is one goal, though. If you have different goals in life, you would create a different GPS for each goal. So break it down into one goal per GPS. And then the 411 looks more like this. You're coming up with what your annual net income goals are. Look, they've already asked you to put some information in here based on the questions I've already asked you. And then you divide that annual goal into a monthly goal, because there's 12 months in a year. You're going to divide it by 12. And then you're going to come up with a weekly plan for each week in order to hit that goal. So these two go hand in hand. I find that the 411 helps you come up with more of that weekly plan for you for your weekly job description. How many open houses am I going on this week? How many social media connections am I going to have this week? If I'm doing video in the 2nd week, am I going to do video again in the 4th week? You can really develop some plans in your weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order to help you really break these goals down and hit them on a weekly basis. So those are 2 of the planning tools that I'm recommending you use. Any questions or thoughts around those?
I think the main thing that I pull away from the One Thing, the book, and from the 411 is that, I mean, we all have grandiose goals, right? And that's what this class is about. And I know we're going to get to it eventually. I came in a little late. I apologize. But it's taking that massive idea and bringing it down to the macro, down to the micro level with the actual actions that are going to get you to that goal. And I think that really helps people, because they're like, well, I want to make $1 million. Well, okay, great. How are you going to do it? You know? And so at least Keller Williams is fantastic with this, is they, help you break down, those goals and bring them down so that it's not too scary,
Right.
and it does appear doable.
Yeah.
And you have a plan, because when you have a plan, then you can take action. A lot of people go into fear and they go into overwhelm mode when they don't have a solid plan. And then they go into, sit on the couch and not do nothing plan, because they just aren't motivated. So for sure, that's what I love about the 411 and, the business planning, is it helps you to kind of wrap your head around this idea and then have a guide throughout the year to keep you on track, and to keep you if you didn't get that appointment this week, you know what? We're going to get 2 appointments next week. It's that self-talk. It's that get it out into the universe, to try and push yourself, because that's all you have, because you're in charge of you, right?
Right.
We're all independent contractors as realtors, so it's just you. Nobody's going to do it for you. You
Right.
have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to get fired in this profession, right? It takes usually something illegal before you get fired. So, you may not make any money and your broker still continues to hang on to you, but that's not really what you want from life. You want to make money and you want to hit these goals. And Cindy, what I like to add to what you said is what I call the win the day formula. And that's something I learned from Brian Buffini years ago, is it's those small things add up to bigger things, right? So when you think about a win the day formula, that really fits with this 411 tool is, what am I doing today to win the day? And at the end of each day, when you look at what you did today and you go, okay, did I do the very best I could today? Did I contact as many people as I said I would? Did I work towards getting those appointments? Did I work towards getting contracts signed? And do I feel like I won the day today? And for me, a good night's sleep is super important. And so I really want at the end of each day to feel like I've done that my best, so that I can close my mind down and relax and know that the next day I'm going to go out there and do it again, and that I can that I'll get a good night's sleep at night. It's typically those nights I don't get a good night's sleep, or the nights I'm awake thinking of the things I should have gotten done or that I forgot to do, and that sort of thing. So all these planning tools help you to be a better planner in your life. So again, remember what I said at the beginning, people aim for nothing and they still hit it with amazing accuracy. So what these are helping you do is aim for something. What did I do to win the day today? And remember, the small things add up to bigger things. So if you win 5 days out of 7, would you agree you've won the week?
Yes.
And if you win 3 weeks out of 4, would you agree you've won the month? And if you win 8 to 9 months out of the year, would you agree you've won the year? That still gives you time for things to go sideways once in a while. It still gives you time for vacations or for you to get sick and all those other things that can happen. And you can still have a win the day, win the week, win the month, win the year formula. And so giving yourself some planning tools in order to hit that, where you can actually write in, okay, this week, here are the things I'm going to do to hit my goal. Next week, here's the things I'm going to do. And then you can put a check mark next to them every time you hit them.
Laura,
So,
I have
yes.
a question.
Yes.
What do you think about having a accountability person? I know that I know this will help me a lot. Because sometimes we have goals, plans, but if we don't take action, nothing happens.
Yep.
Right. But when you have someone that is, hey, how many calls did you make? How many appointments did you do? Did you do your weekly goals? It's like, then it's like, shoot, I'm going to be meeting my accountability person and I better get the work done, or I don't know, get some kind of an incentive. Okay, if you don't do this, then you're going to pay for my lunch.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what you think about that.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring it up in about 2 more slides. We're going to talk about it. And I think it's a really important part of anybody who's successful has accountability. Before we get there, I want to talk about budgeting for just a sec. And then we're going to talk about accountability and all that kind of stuff. Any more thoughts on planning tools that I am going to send to you before I move on? Now, at the very beginning, oh my gosh, that's going to take too long. If I go all the way back to this slide, hold on a minute. Actually, I know what the best way for me to do this is. Let's do it this way. Okay. Let me just share this slide instead. I have it at the very end as well. Okay, from current slide. When we first started talking about this, whoopsie. Oh, I hope I did that right. Okay. We first started talking about this. I told you we were going to mostly focus on your economic model and then your lead gen model. So it was knowing your numbers and knowing your activities. So we spent a lot of time talking about that. But I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about budget model because remember I said you guys are all business owners. Every real estate agent out there owns a business. So it would be not a good business planning clinic if I didn't spend some time talking about budget. I will say this, budget is underlying in everything you do. If you're not focusing on economic model and lead generation model, you don't have a business to even have a budget for. So you really need to spend some time knowing your numbers, and you really need to spend some time knowing what your activities are in order to hit those numbers. And then, of course, like I said, budget is underlying in everything that you do. Okay, so your budget model for 2022. Are you a business owner? We just talked about every real estate agent out there is a small business owner. You all own your own business. And with any business owner who's a good business owner, you're tracking. So ask yourself this question. Are you tracking your expenses? Are you using a P&L, which is a profit and loss statement? Are you using it monthly? Yes, you're getting one from me as one of the handouts I'm sending, as well as a small budget worksheet that you can work on. What are your operating costs, operating expenses? What are your costs of sales? Remember we talked about those two things before and we defined both of them? Are you leading with revenue? What does that mean, to lead with revenue? It's pretty simple. Don't spend money if you don't have it yet. So at the beginning of your real estate career, for those of you who are newer in this meeting with us today, you're doing activities that are cost less money, like open houses. Those are those prospecting activities that I mentioned that take more of your time and less of your money. And then as you're closing some transactions, you may increase your marketing budget to add some money to marketing. So leading with revenue simply means don't spend it if you don't have it. Get that revenue first, and then you start spending some money. Are you tracking your return on your investment, your ROI? Are you spending money on lead sources where you're not getting anything back from them? And are you not getting anything back because it's a bad lead source or because you're not doing a good job following up? So you have to ask yourself those questions.
And then the 80-20 principle plays into this as well, correct?
Well, why don't you tell me, Cindy, what that means for you?
So, well, the 80, I know you're losing your voice, huh? The 80-20 principle, it's Pareto, is that right? The
Well,
Pareto
the 80-20 principle means a lot of different things. So what does that mean to you when you're talking about the budget model?
So, I mean, as far as, as your energies go, when you're working with, choosing activities you are going to do, you want to spend as much time on the activities. You want to spend, what is it, 80% of your time on the activities that will get you, no. Okay, I'm confused now. Now I'm totally confused.
You're
Okay.
right. Would you
Yeah.
like some help?
I would love some help. I can't even.
The 80-20 rule is that 80% of your activities, sorry, I did it wrong. 20% of your activities should give you 80% of your results.
That's it. I'm like
20% of your activities should give you 80% of your results. And I would have, it goes in so many things. There's so many ways to look at the 80-20 principle, but basically what that means is you need to stay in your 20% activities that are money-making activities, which will result in 80% of your income. So if you're cleaning your desk, that's not a money-making activity. If you're working on making this flyer perfect and all of a sudden you become a graphic designer instead of a real estate agent, that's not making you money. All these little things that we do in our real estate career that really just get us sidetracked versus calling somebody to set an appointment, which is definitely a 20% activity. Stay in the 20% that are money-making activities and they will lead to 80% of your results. And I'll bring that up in a second when we talk about the organizational model. Okay, so are you tracking your return on your investment? Where I find this bigger is, are you buying leads and are they good quality leads? I think that's one of the places that real estate agents spend a lot of money is on buying leads, and they tend to be low quality leads, and you're spending a lot of money on them versus actually putting yourself out there at an open house or door knocking or just contacting your sphere of influence to get a much higher quality of lead. So, hey, if you're spending some money on real estate, track it and figure out if you're getting a high rate of return on your investment. A smart business owner does that. And then, are you playing red light, green light with your expenses? In other words, what that means is we are in a business where we get a lot of shiny new objects that are brought to us all the time. Hey, if you spend money on this, it's going to help you with this. If you spend money on this, it's going to help you with this. It's the shiny new object syndrome. Red light means stop, look at what they're offering, decide if it fits into your plan, hold off on it. Do you have the money to spend on it? If it all fits in your plan and you actually have money to invest in it, then green light, go. But always stop and red light it first and go, stop. Do I even have the money to spend on this? Does this even fit into my plan? I know it's a beautiful, shiny new object, but is it even part of my plan? And if I have the money and it is part of my plan, then green light, go. Walk away first, you guys. Walk away. If it's really that great, important of an investment, it'll be there the next day for you to decide if you want to spend money on it or not. So these are the kinds of things that you want to think about when you're focusing on being a smart business owner. Track your expenses, use a P&L, know what your operating costs are, which is what you would track in your P&L. Know what your costs of sales are. Lead with revenue, track your return on your investment of all the different types of lead generation you're doing, how much time are they taking, and how much money are you spending, and what type of return are you getting. And then play red light, green light with your expenses. Those are my suggestions around budgeting, and you are going to get a couple of worksheets from me on that. So when you think about this again, we spent a lot of time talking about the economic model, which is knowing your numbers. We spent a lot of time talking about the lead gen model, which is knowing your activities to hit those numbers. I just gave you some recommendations around the budget model. The organizational model, I'm just going to say a couple of things. What I've found is that most people in the Bay Area for real estate really don't have a big organizational model. I will say every single one of you, every single agent, I want to look at all of you. Ha! I can't see any of you. Amanda and Rebecca, I'm so glad I can see you. Raise your hand if you were a solo agent. And Milena, thank you. Are you a solo agent? Rebecca, you're just getting started. Hey, Cindy. Okay, you are all solo agents except that there's no such thing as a solo agent. Every single real estate agent out there does have a team. You all have a team. You're surrounded by people that make you successful. Whether that's your escrow officer, your lenders, your inspectors, every single one of you has a team. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're employing them. Many of them are getting paid differently, but they are a part of your team. When you start thinking about the organizational model, that's when you start asking yourself, am I going to grow a team? And what I found is that most people here in the Bay Area are really not doing enough real estate in order for you to warrant growing a team. If you're thinking about growing a team, the number one hire is always a transaction coordinator. Raise your hand if you use a transaction coordinator. Okay, most people start there. Remember that 80-20 that Cindy was talking about? The transaction coordinator takes a lot of that 80% off of your plate so that you can focus on the 20%. They're getting paperwork done so that you don't have to think about paperwork so much, so that you can be in front of your clients working with your buyers and sellers to help move them along in the pipeline so that you're getting to successful contracts and successful closings. So typically everyone starts by hiring, it's very good leverage, they start by hiring a transaction coordinator. And then the next place that people go is they think they need to hire a buyer's agent or a showing assistant. And that can be a big mistake because you end up paying that agent on every single transaction that they're a part of, which adds up really quickly around here, versus hiring an admin or an assistant to help you with that 80% again that Cindy was talking about. If you can get an admin or assistant, even a virtual assistant, to be doing those 80% activities that keep you freed up to focus on your 20% activities that are money making activities, your that's probably your next hire. So transaction coordinator is an admin, so that's the first hire. Second hire is another admin. They help you with marketing, they help you with other admin duties so that you can stay in front of your people. Every time you work with a buyer's agent, if you're splitting 50-50 with them around here, that adds up to 100 grand really quick. Okay? Whereas you could pay for an assistant, an admin, at $50,000 to $60,000, and you're keeping more of that money in your pocket, and you're focusing on your 20% activities for much less money than if you were paying for a buyer's agent. Once you're
The buyer's agent's not going to help you with your marketing either.
no,
They're
no,
not going to help you coordinate appointments
Yeah.
with clients. They're not going to help you do any
Right.
of those things. They're
Right.
just going to take half of your money and
right.
help you with your transaction, basically.
When you have too many clients that you cannot, after you've got admin help, when you have so many clients that there's not enough of you to go around, that's when you start looking to hire a buyer's agent or something, so you can focus on the listings that you're hiring a buyer's agent. Most of us are not at that level here in the Bay Area where we have too many clients that we don't have time for. So that's what I would say around the part about the organizational model is, who are your people? First of all, your people are every single person that makes you successful. It's your lenders, it's your vendors, it's your escrow officers, it's all those people that help make you successful on your team. And then from there, you start with a transaction coordinator and you consider hiring an admin. And at that point, if you're growing even further, then you're looking at possibly hiring a buyer's agent. Okay? Now, skill set. Okay, Milena, here's the part that you were talking about. What are you doing consistently to grow your skills? So you're showing up for workshops like this. This is awesome. I'm going to send you some papers that you need to schedule yourself some time to go through these papers and really do some planning for next year. So the first thing is, are you time blocking to win the day? Are you creating that 411 plan where you've set up, here's what I'm going to do week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 to win my month, and what am I doing each day to win the day? Are you time blocking for lead generation each day? Are you time blocking for appointments each day? And if you don't schedule an appointment that day, what are you doing with that time block that you didn't have an appointment? Are you lead generating again so that you continue to try to focus to fill your calendar with appointments? Are you practicing your scripts and your consultations so that you get higher conversion rates? Do you have an educational growth plan? Are you reading books? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you attending classes like this to help you grow? For some reason, these are backwards. Are you getting a coach? Do you have some accountability? And are you using goal tracking systems like the ones I shared with you, the GPS and the 411? Are you using those things to help you grow? Those are my recommendations around that. I did do a little math for you guys that I want to share with you, just to help you think about what this math looks like for conversion rates. So I did this on a piece of paper and I took a picture of it, so it's not anything fancy. But take a look at this. And you guys can take a picture of it if you want. Do I need to make it bigger? Would that help? There. How's that? Bigger. Okay. If you had a gross goal, your gross goal was $500,000 for the year. You want a gross commission income of $500,000. I have to stress the word gross. This is not, most business owners are focusing on net, but I'm just helping you a little bit with the math, and I'll explain why it's not a net number. And your average commission is $25,000. Would you guys agree average around here is about $25,000? Okay, let's go with that. 25,000 into 500,000 is 20 sales. So if your gross goal is 500,000 for the year and your average commission is 25,000, that's 20 sales. Now, if you have a balanced business, meaning that you're working with both sellers and buyers, let's make that half and half. So that means you got 10 listings and 10 buyers in order to hit the 20 sales. But this is where the conversions come in. In order for you to get 10 listings sold at a 75% conversion, meaning that they won't all sell, that means you have to take 14 listings. Now just bear with me on this math for a little bit. And in order for you to get 14 listings, you need to go on 19 listing appointments because you're going to get 75% of them are going to sign with you. Okay? So in order for you to get 10 listings, you want to go on 19 listing appointments. Now let's just say of all the people you talk to, 1 in 4 conversations turns into an actual listing appointment. So that's 1 in 4, it's 25%. That means you need to talk to 76 contacts a year to get 19 listing appointments, which gets you 14 listings, which gets you 10 listings sold. Now, I do realize that for probably, what is our conversion rate on listings right now? How many listings actually sell right now? It's probably much higher than 75%. Because we are in a seller's market right now. So pretty much every single listing that goes on the market is selling. So I realize that this one is probably a little low, but this just gives you some ideas on conversions. The other part that's probably too high, it's probably not 1 in 4 conversations turns into a listing appointment. It's probably more like 1 in 10, probably 10%. Okay? But just as you think about this, now let's go to the buyer side. So for our 20 sales, 10 of those are buyers. 75% of those buyers sold means that we needed 14 buyers. That's probably a little bit more accurate. It's much harder to get a buyer in contract right now. It might even be too high. It might be 70% or 65% of our buyers actually become a sold buyer. But let's just say it's 75%. That means you needed to have 14 buyers. And let's say in order for you to get 14 buyers who actually agree to work with you, then you needed 19 buyer appointments, which meant 75% of those buyers signed with you in order to work with you to be a buyer's agent. So you needed to go on 19 appointments. And again, for every 4 conversations you have, 1 of them turns into a buyer appointment, which again is probably way too high. But if that was your conversion around that, that would be 76 contacts for buyer's appointments and 76 contacts for seller appointments. If you add those two together, that's 152 contacts. Let's say you work 40 weeks out of the year. What does 40 weeks mean? How many weeks does that mean you're taking off, or how many months are you taking off? How many is that? 3! Means you get to take 3 whole months off. So if you only work 3/4 of the year, 152 divided by 40 is 4 contacts a week. Now, again, these are probably some of my conversion rates are off, so keep that in mind, but use this kind of math when you're thinking about your conversion rates, okay? And you need to know your own conversion rates in order to have this be more accurate. Now, I also want to go back to this part. I gave you a gross goal. Is that what your actual take-home will be? No, absolutely not. This does not take into consideration your cost of sale or your operating expenses or your taxes. So I don't want you to think that that means you're going to take home $500,000, because it does not mean that at all. But it does give you a little bit of math for you to think about. When I've been talking a lot about conversion rates during this class today, and this kind of gives you an idea of what that means when I ask you about conversion rates. Again, the listing one is probably higher than 75%. The buyer one may be lower than 75% right now in our current market. As markets change, the buyer one can be higher and the listing one can be lower. And these conversion rates down here at 25% are probably way too high. It's probably more like 1 in 10, 10%. Every 10 conversations leads to 1 potential buyer or seller. So just keep those things in mind, but this gives you a little bit of math around that. Okay? questions about this? Okay. Let's see. Back to my slides. I think I'm pretty much at the end of my slides. Shared this skill set for you guys. And this would just be a reminder of winning the day. People aim for nothing and hit it with amazing accuracy, and it all starts with little incremental steps. It starts with what are you going to do today to win the day? And then those days build upon each other to win the week, and those weeks build upon each other to win the month, which then in turn helps you win the year. So start by time blocking. Start by time blocking for lead gen. Start by time blocking for appointments. Start by time blocking to schedule a couple of hours to actually create your plan for 2022. Again, you guys all have my email address. So I will, if you email me, I will send you my handouts, and they're really helpful. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Are we going to be getting the worksheet with the numbers of how to break it all down?
You guys want to see what you're getting? Would you like to see the whole packet?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, here's what you're getting. Okay, you're getting what is your economic plan? All the questions are right here. And let's see, how is this moving? Okay, and then it gives you right there. So Cindy, I think this is what you're talking about. Here's your economic model. It helps you with conversion rates. And then it's questions around lead generation. And then here's your lead generation questions. And then this is that funnel again for you to look at. This is the transaction life cycle. I know it says listings, but use the same one for buyers. And then what are your sources for that? Here's a GPS for you. Here's a 411 for you. Here's a P&L, a very simple one-page profit and loss that you can use monthly. And here's creating a budget. So those are the handouts you're getting from me today. Okay? Oh, what does this say? Hold on. Thank you, Laura, for a great class. You're welcome, Della. I guess she left us. Any other questions you guys have? Any ahas? I would love to hear one or two ahas that you took from today. Rebecca, you're muted. Did you say something?
Yeah. The 80/20, liked it. Really
Ah,
liked it.
okay, great. Cindy, I got to add that because I wasn't even going to talk about it very much until the very end. But yeah, the 80/20 rule is really important in life, period. Another way that the 80/20 rule shows up in real estate, 20% of the agents do 80% of the business. It's that cream of the crop, that top 20% of real estate agents out there. They're the ones who have learned how to leverage themselves and leverage their time to get in front of clients more often, and they do 80% of the business. But the most important part of that rule is that you should focus. I'm going to say it wrong again. 80% of your effort should be on your 20% focus. Focus on the 20% activities for that are money making activities, and stop cleaning your desk every day. That's an 80% activity. This is the other way that I like to think of it is rock and roll, ROLE. What's your role? Your role is to be a real estate agent and lead generate for business. And so your big rock is lead generation. So rock and roll. Your role is to lead generate, and your big rock is lead generation. Everything else is a little bitty rock. Any other ahas?
GPS,
You like that?
the goal, priorities, and strategies. Yes.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad you like that part. I think it's a great tool as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the visual timeline that you shared that you said was for listings, but it's also for sellers. It helps put into balance in your mind. It's not gonna just always be. And I mean, I've nurtured people for golly, like years, and then they come on back, you know. So
Right.
just because you meet someone and you've made a great connection, don't, tuck them in the back of your Rolodex and forget about them, ping them with a pop-by, hit them with a note, make a call here and there, because those people will come back if you're the name that they think of first when it comes to real estate.
Yep.
You're
Top
taking
of mind.
share. Exactly.
Mind share, top of mind. That's that law of emotional proximity, which is really important. They're going to grab that realtor that they're closest to when they need that person. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, the pillars were a good reminder just because I
good. Thank you.
have just
So,
been getting like, I'm muted.
I muted.
And yeah, because I've just been getting with COVID, like open houses used to be one of my thing. And because that was not a thing all last year, yeah, I've gotten out of habit of doing them, and I kind of don't want to do them anymore. And so it's, I was like, ooh, I maybe need to re-examine if that's going to still be one of my pillars at all or not. And I wanted to say good luck to Rebecca on the first open house, because I actually picked up a buyer at my very first open house in real estate. And I had a buyer's appointment with them right away because they were all gung-ho with my mentor at the time, because I was like, I don't know what to do. I just picked up a buyer at my first open house. And they didn't end up buying right away, but kept in touch for at least 2 years until they got in contract. And it was on a new construction, which took 10 months. So it was nearly 3 years to closing that buyer. So yeah, keep in touch with your people you meet at your first open house.
Yeah. This is not.
I have a great
Good. Awesome. This is not an overnight success business. This is building one day at a time. Amanda, I didn't actually draw the pillars out. Do you think I should draw them out really quick? I can do this for you guys really quick. Because I know what Amanda's talking about here, let me go to my whiteboard again. And I'm just going to share this with you guys really quick. Because it might be helpful for you to look at it this way. So I usually draw it as a 3 or 4-legged stool. Oh. Let me turn my little stylus back on. And then we'll end with this. Where's the button? There it is. All right. So this is my little 4-legged stool. Okay. Now, if you had a stool and it only had 2 legs, would it be tippy? Is it tippy? Yes, it's not stable. And does it need more than 4 legs? No. It only needs 3 to 4 legs for it to be a stable stool. So when you think about lead generation and what Amanda was talking about is as pillars, I kind of look at them as the legs of a stool. And your number one leg is always your sphere of influence. Always, always, always. There's no other answer. I promise you it's always your sphere of influence, period, end of story. And then that's the people that you've already met, okay? These are people you already know. You've met them already, okay? So they're your Mets. And then what you want to add is you want to add 2 to 3 other sources of meeting new people, so not Mets, okay? I know these styluses are like kindergarten writing, but so apologize for that. And that's where Amanda was coming back to open houses. So for Rebecca, good job. You're putting yourself out there. And then I mentioned most of you, because of COVID, you're doing social media. Now, one of the things you want to keep in mind around social media is, are you doing social media for lead generation, or are you doing social media as follow-up to your sphere of influence? It's 2 different things. So yeah, put it here as one of your legs right here if it's truly a leg for lead generation. If it's just part of your follow-up for your sphere of influence, to me it doesn't count as one of these legs over here. Okay? And then you add another leg, which can be farming. Okay? It can be networking. It can be FSBOs, expireds, whatever. Just one. I gave you some ideas. But my whole thing on this is your lead gen, and then your lead follow-up is everything you're doing to follow up with them afterwards throughout the year in a systematic, professional way, so that through the law of emotional proximity, they're always remembering you. You're the one they're thinking of. But I don't want you to do more than 4, because there's only one of you. Unless you have a big team and you can assign other people on the team to do another leg. Get really good at these and build your skills and do what I call a deep dive into these skills, okay? Otherwise you're skimming the surface and you're spreading yourself way too thin and you're not getting really good at your skills. So pick the ones you love. Here's the other thing. We don't clock in and clock out every day. Oops, there. We don't clock in and clock out every day. You have to do what you're going to get out of bed every day and do in real estate. So if the idea of cold calling is something you won't get out of bed and do, then don't make that part of your stool or part of your pillars that Amanda was talking about. All right? Because you're not going to do it. Now, if you were taught how to do it well and professionally, and you realize that we're in a no business and every no is one step closer to a yes. If you were taught how to do it and then you were more apt to do it, then you can make it a part of your plan. But if you're just absolutely not going to door knock or not going to cold call, then don't make that a part of your plan. Pick open houses, pick networking activities, pick those things that you are more likely to get out of bed and have a win the day formula with, and do those things in your career. All right. I'm so happy to say that my voice hung in there with me. So thanks you guys for participating with me today. It's always a much better class if we can talk to each other and share ideas. So I thank you for your time. And I'm expecting that when I end this Zoom, I will have a few different emails from you asking for the handouts. So you guys all have my email address, right? Everybody's good? Thank you so much for your time today, you guys, and I wish you all the best. Hey, remember we're in a quarterly business too, so everybody that you're reaching out to now is who's going to be in your pipeline for the beginning of next year. So don't forget about those holiday reach outs. And I wish you guys all the best for next year. Thank you for your time today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks. Bye.